Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is Michelle Chalfant. Hello, Michelle.
Good morning, Pete.
Are you excited about your week?
I am.
I just realized as we were kind of talking, you were telling me that you're about to hit your writing weekend.
Yes. For my birthday, one of the things that I had said I wanted to do was go away and do a writing trip. And my sister is also writing a book, and she wanted to do the same thing, and it just sort of all fell into place. So we are going to be in Charleston for a few days, just writing our books, like literally not talking all day, but, yeah, we're not going to talk all day and do dinners at night, but I'm really excited because I really want to get this book going. So
yeah, right. Oh, that's very exciting.
It's good stuff.
How are you feeling about your journaling challenge? Are you ready to go for that? Because as we record this, we still have a couple of days. Yeah. By the time you hear this, you should be well on to your journaling
into day 2 or 3, I think, right? Or day 2.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
day 2.
And this the title of this show is going to fall in perfectly with our journaling challenge. So
I love that. We are talking about the power of gratitude today. Before we dig into the details there, please head over to theadultchair.com, learn more about this show. You can subscribe for free by signing up to the mailing list and get an email each time a new episode is released. You can also find us anywhere the finer podcasts are served with a quick search for The Adult Chair. And we really appreciate, I know this is our weekly mantra, we really appreciate the kind 5-star reviews you leave for us in iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Taking just a minute to do that is a way to pay it forward. If you found that you have received support from this podcast and from Michelle's work, paying it forward by leaving us that kind review allows other people to find the show when they need support. So thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts there.
Yes, please.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, please. The power of we will be very gracious and grateful if you do that, yes. Right? So let's talk about the power of gratitude. How did this come to you?
Well, I notice at the end of my meditations, what I do is, because I use that insight timer, which I absolutely love, and the last 5 minutes, you can set many tones and chimes throughout your meditation. So I set one at halfway, so my brain knows, or my mind knows, okay, we are halfway done. And then when I have 5 minutes left, I set another tone, and I spend the last 5 minutes in gratitude. And there's huge power in gratitude. 30 years ago, they did a positive psychology study. Okay. So typically for many, all these years, when someone went to therapy, like think about Freud and Piaget and all these guys, they were looking for it was like a negative psychology. They were looking for what's wrong with us. But about 30 years ago, this guy named Martin Seligman, I think is how you say his name, decided with some of his colleagues to do a study of positive psychology. And what they looked at was the power of gratitude, optimism, forgiveness, happiness, compassion, things like that. And they studied those. And they found that when a human being focuses on those things, it was more powerful and more healing to people than looking at and identifying your anxiety, your depression, and basically all the negative aspects of psychology. So it was really, 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 really powerful. It was a powerful study. And it affects us when we think about positive psychology on every level, not just mentally, but mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So,
I see. It's so funny that you would bring that up. We just had this experience last night with my daughter, who was she was really struggling with a homework assignment, and she was so plagued by invasive thoughts.
Yes.
The invasive thoughts, these thoughts that come in and you just can't shake them. And the fact that you are focusing on them, the fact that they exist and you can't shake them becomes that self-defeating spiral. Now you're focusing on, why can't I stop thinking about this?
Right.
Why can't I let this go? And that becomes the thing that you focus on. These invasive thoughts, that negative psychology, it has a Doppler, a ripple effect on your ability to just move forward.
Well, and what I hear when you say that, what I hear is it's the mind. It's just the mind. And the mind is what distracts us. It's what the mind tells us stories. And if we choose to believe those stories, it sends us into hell. I mean, it's like such an awful place. So yeah, with your daughter, I'm sure she had one thought. And if we listen to that thought and pay attention to it and believe it, that's the key. Then it sends us into this really dark place. So that's why the meditation is powerful. It keeps us out of, it doesn't turn thoughts off. It keeps us in the practice of observing thoughts and not buying into them. But having gratitude, daily gratitude, it is so incredibly powerful. They have done so many studies on this. It raises self-esteem. It helps us with anxiety and depression and headaches even. Because again, like your daughter, most of us throughout the day, we focus on what's negative, what's wrong, and it leads us into such a dark, dark place. Gratitude works really well with helping us to be a more optimistic person versus pessimistic. Because here's what's happening, much like a meditation where we're observing these thoughts, we're planting seeds. It's like we're planting little tiny seeds in our brain every morning or whenever you do this gratitude practice. And it's helping the brain to look for something else. It changes the brain because think about it. The mind, in my opinion, is connected to our ego, which is based in fear. So it's going to look for what's wrong. That's its job. That's just what it does. It doesn't know to look for positives. So we have to intentionally look for positives. So when we sit in gratitude, it starts to change how we see the world. Because it's like, instead of just letting our mind go rogue and we look for the negatives, we look for all the things that are wrong in our lives, we start naturally looking for what's okay, and not only okay, but what's right in our world. And when we do that, it just starts changing us again on every level. Physically speaking, it improves our immune system. So, and what I also love to teach people about gratitude is it helps us to stay in our adult chair. And it does this because we stay more connected to who we are when we're in gratitude. We're more connected to our heart space. It helps us to stay connected to something bigger than who we are. So it helps us to stay more grounded. So it's really, really powerful. And so many people do not do it because we spend all of our time in the mind looking for what's wrong.
You are getting this reminder in Insight Timer, but which is a nice sort of palpable thing. It's a thing that injects itself into your world that says, "Hey, focus on this new thing now." But as you say, so many of us have real trouble focusing on what it means to have gratitude and how to keep it present in your mind. How do you do that?
Well, one of the things that I do, and this is why I love that we're even talking about this during this. Our 30 days of journaling is a gratitude journal. So again, maybe for the last, 5 minutes of journaling every day or 2 minutes of journaling, come up with 2 to 5 things that you're grateful for. And oftentimes when I ask people that and they're really in a bad space, I'm like, just tell me one thing that you're grateful for. And it's amazing how that mind operates. I'm telling you, it's like the mind will say, well, nothing, my whole life is falling apart. And that's when I'll have them turn in my office and I'll say, look out the window, what do you see up in the sky? And they're like, well, the clouds and the sun. I'm like, do you like being in the sun or do you prefer a rainy day? And they're like, well, no, I love the sun. I'm like, ooh, there's something you might be grateful for. So when we really feel like our lives are completely a mess and falling apart, it's looking at the real basic, even not that the sun is a small thing, it's a huge thing, but things that we take for granted every day, and really having gratitude for them. So like the sun, and then I'll say, well, how does that feel on you? So with gratitude, what we want to do is we want to look at what are we grateful for? So it could be something as minor again as the sun, or I'm happy that my legs work, something like that. And then we go into what does that feel like? What does it feel like when the sun hits your face in the morning when you're going for a walk? Or what does it feel like when you're laying in the sun? Or what does it feel like when, whatever, you're playing golf and the sun is hitting your arms, or playing tennis or whatever? It's like, oh, love how that feels. It warms me up. Okay, well, sit in that for 30 seconds. What we want to do is get a full body experience. We take for granted so much of what happens in our body every single day. We walk around in these magnificent bodies and rarely, if ever, give it gratitude. So if you can think of nothing else to give gratitude for, give your body gratitude. My brother-in-law just had his second detached retina, and he's had 2 surgeries in the last 3 weeks. And it's been terrifying because he almost lost his eye. And this is the second one he's had. He had another one about 10 years ago. It was his other eye. So he had a soccer injury. The soccer ball hit his head, and it detached a few days later. And I was talking to him and my sister about how we take for granted even our vision. We just wake up every morning and look out the window, and it's like, oh yeah, I can see everything around me. How often do we say, God, thank you for my eyes. Thank you for my sight. Thank you for my legs that walk me around every single day. Thank you for my sense of smell, all my senses. We are not good at that. So having gratitude for things like that is really powerful and actually starts to change our brain, starts to, again, help us look for something else instead of always coming from more of a fear-based place.
Right. I have a story. Can I tell you a story? We have a mutual friend, Dr. Dodge Ray. You know this Dodge. He's a fantastic person. He's been a guest on this very show to talk about his grace sequence. And he and I were having this conversation about building new habits and routines. And one of the things that came up was, how do you build more gratitude and grace into your life? And I had just come across a fantastic TED Talk by B.J. Fogg, who's a social psychologist. And he was talking about, forget big change, start with tiny habits. And the way BJ had done it and had told the story was, I wanted to be able to do more push-ups. I wanted to increase my upper body strength. So I tied that tiny habit with going to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. So every time I went to the bathroom, I would sit down and I would do one push-up. And eventually every time I went to the bathroom, I was doing, 2 push-ups and 5 push-ups. And now I'm doing plenty of push-ups, right? So he was able to make that change in his life. Well, Dodge said, wow, you know what I need to do? I need to tie gratitude to going to the bathroom.
Oh, that's so
which
cool.
Sounds very strange, right?
No, but I love that. I love that.
But he comes back to me the next week and he says, every time I go to the bathroom, I stand up to wash my hands. And when I'm washing my hands, just for the duration of washing my hands, I say to myself a brief meditation about something that I am grateful for. And so he was saying, for example, I'm washing my hands and I am really grateful that I am thinking about, adding gratitude as a tiny habit. I'm grateful for that. I am really, this is a great new habit. So every time he does this, and he posted on Facebook weeks later, he said, I'm still doing this and it feels so good. He goes into the bathroom feeling one way and he always feels better when he walks out.
So amazing. I love it.
Which it works on so many levels.
Love it. Love it.
Right?
Yes. I love that. It's a great idea. Because, we need
it is
cues.
A great idea.
That's a great cue. Okay, go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Time to say something. But, and it's, again, there's so many things to be grateful for. And it's also the second step, though, is bringing that gratitude in the body. What does it feel like? I know when I sit in the morning and I meditate, and I open my eyes and I'm doing the gratitude part of it. And I look at my dogs that are always sitting right next to me, like waiting for me to be done. And I just look at those dogs. I have so much love and I thank them. I thank the fact that I have dogs and the love that I get from my dogs or my children. Those are obvious ones, but it's like the little things. We don't need these big, gigantic things if we're building a gratitude practice. We want to build this. And this was a fact or a statistic, I guess, that they did a study on this, blew my mind. So research shows that recording gratitude experiences, or a gratitude journal or a gratitude and meditation for 2 consecutive weeks, so every day for 2 weeks, it has lasting effects for up to 6 months. It carries us. It carries us because I believe when we are sitting in gratitude, we are changing our vibration. So energetically speaking, because we are energy beings, we are energetic beings. When we feel sad, when we feel shame, there's an energetic vibration to those emotions. It keeps us feeling low. And then we go into, of course, the like attracts like and all of that. So then we attract more of those experiences to us, right? So in the book Power versus Force, David Hawkins talks about this. It's one of my favorite books. He shows where these levels of emotions vibrate. So for example, shame vibrates at a 10. I can't remember the measure. I think it's like hertz or something like that. But on a frequency scale, it measures at 20, where fear vibrates at 100. Courage is 200. So it kind of goes up. Love vibrates at 500. The level of consciousness when we are starting to enlighten goes from like 700 up to 1,000. So this whole book is on power versus force. So you gain power when you hit 500 and above, and force is we're pushing against. Life is much easier. As you know, I'm sure you've said to your kids or had someone say to you, it takes a lot more energy to be in a bad mood than be in a good mood. When I'm angry at someone, It takes a lot of energy. Our energy body naturally is not one of negativity. So it's almost like holding us under the water. When we can let go and find gratitude, it changes who we are vibrationally or energetically. So therefore, the physical body can start to heal because I'm vibrating higher. They showed cancer. I don't know. I can't remember if this was in his book. I think cancer vibrates like at a 5 or at a 10. So it's very low. It's a low energetic frequency where love and positive health and things like this are much, much, much higher. So again, when we're planting the seeds of gratitude, again, is a higher number. Appreciation vibrates, and acceptance vibrates at, I think it was like 350. So we want to be higher, and gratitude helps us shift not just the mind temporarily, but again, 6 months, okay, if we do this for 2 weeks straight, but also our energy bodies. It really does affect us emotionally, mentally, and physically. So there's so many reasons to have a gratitude practice. It changes how we see the world, and it also changes what we start looking at throughout the day. If we start building this practice of looking for what's good in my life versus what's bad, it starts setting up, you guessed it, like another habit, like this journaling challenge. That's why I'm doing 30 days of journaling. It's like, let's build that habit. That's a positive, good habit. What if you put into the end of your journaling 2 minutes of 2 things that you're grateful for? So think about them and then feel them in the body. That ingrains that not only the thought in the body, but the emotion. And then again, there's a new energy in the body of gratitude. So it's extremely powerful and really changes us from the inside out.
That's beautiful. What a great time to do it. I have put links to both of these resources. The first one is that I mentioned is that TED Talk. If that is inspirational to you at all, the idea of tying tiny habits to your gratitude, go watch BJ Fogg. And second, Power versus Force, The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior by David R. Hawkins, and you can see an image over on the website that it's a chart that actually sort of describes these
levels of
describes that concept and the levels,
like that. And that's a really cool chart to like print off and put on your fridge and go, oh my God, look where I'm vibrating. I'm in shame, or I'm in, you know. And we know it when we're in a negative emotion. We feel heavy. We feel like we've got a weighted blanket on us when we feel our shame and we're feeling sad or negative about anything. When we then feel a really joyous emotion or happy or something like that, we feel lighter because we're expanding energetically. It's powerful. You never know where gratitude will lead you. You never know. So start planting the seeds by saying, 3 to 5 a day. Every time you go pee.
Wonderful. Every time you go pee, and if you're grateful for that, then really it does. It's inside and out, and you can be grateful for a healthy colon.
Exactly. There you go. Healthy colon.
Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We certainly appreciate it. We are grateful for you. Again, those 5-star reviews really help. We'd be really, really grateful for that, as will all the people who come in your footsteps to listen to this show. Thank you so much. On behalf of Michelle Chalfant, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week right here, seated firmly in the adult chair.